All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Comedy Factory Comedy Chat. We got two special guests on today. They're brother and sister, author, actress, comedian, singer. She does it all. Doreen Collins is here, and her brother, who wrote all of her comedy song parodies, I've been told, and she does very well with those, and Billy wrote them all. Billy Collins and Doreen Collins. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great.
We're the Donnie and Marie of Rhode Island.
The Donnie and Marie of Rhode Island.
God, no.
Okay.
That doesn't stick. Hi, Johnny.
How you guys doing? So, what do you want to talk about, Doreen and Billy? Let's,
Well, we were talking, last time we spoke, we were talking about our brushes with fame. You know, you and I were talking about all the famous people we've met. And I forgot one too, but I thought of Billy, because Billy lived in New York for 100 years. He's only been out of New York for the past like 10, 15,
20.
I don't know what day it is, but and he was a bartender for most of that. So
wish I knew him when he was a bartender.
I know, I bet you do. But I remembered another story, John, that I forgot to share with you that is, you know, just became recently
Relevant.
Thank you. Lori Loughlin. You know who that is?
Oh, yeah.
One again.
Oh, yeah.
I got my after card playing her in a dream. She did, when she started out, she was on The Edge of Night. Do you remember that? Soap opera?
Yeah, I remember The Edge of Night.
Okay, so she was on that. And we were both 17 or 18. And I was supposed to be her in this dream sequence. So I got a call from this agent, our friend's agent. She, Doreen, you're a jazz dancer, right? And I was like, no. She goes, you're a jazz dancer. And I said, well, I've taken jazz class. I jazz danced. I'm not a jazz dancer. Yeah, you're a jazz dancer. I'm like, no, yeah, you're a jazz dancer. Be at this address tomorrow. And I'm like, for an audition? No, you're booked. Be there. I'm like,
Wow.
Okay. So I went. And they said, you're going to play Lori Loughlin in her dream. She's dreaming about her big Broadway opening. And I'm like, ooh. So it was me and two jazz dancers. Shut up.
I wish VCRs had existed back then. I would give anything to have a tape
Shut up.
of this.
So
I know, right?
they're doing, the choreographer says, okay, here's the number. Boom, 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 boom. And, you know, then lift your leg over your head and hold it. And then, and I'm like doing it like that because I can't lift my, and these other girls have their legs up and around. And I'm like, I was horrible. So they're like, okay, well, let's move her to the end. But I was still, because I looked like Lori Loughlin at that time. We both had the long brown hair. And it was bad. It was so bad. And the end shot, do you remember the end shot? Shut up. The end shot was the camera zooming through my legs, through my thighs. You know, it was just very, like, you know, so it came through here. And my thighs were thunderous back then. But thank God there were no VCRs.
Dancing. She had veils.
You wound up on the show, didn't they put it on?
Oh, yeah. It was live, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't live, but it was on.
Oh, no, it couldn't have been, because I remember.
You were on the edge of night.
I was on the edge of disaster. God. Yeah, I was on the edge of night. That got me my union card.
Got your union card. Wow, and you were 17 then?
17 or 18?
18, I think, yeah.
18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but Billy makes my stories look, you know, like, who do you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about rock stars or legends or?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I like.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, I told you the Supreme stories. Diana Ross and the Supremes.
But however, she left one important thing out about that story where she was on stage with the Supremes. Our sister Judy used to vomit. Like whenever she was nervous, like the first day of school, every year she'd throw up. Holidays, she'd throw up. So when we went to the Supremes concert, and there were two shows that day. I'd gone to the first one, and I knew they brought little kids up to dance during Love Child. So I wanted to get Doreen and Judy on the stage. So we had to get to that, like, down the front. So it was stadium seating. The gates open, and we're in this mob. Like, and I'm going, oh God, and all of a sudden, the crowd just parts in front of us like the Red Sea. And I'm pushing Doreen, and I'm pushing Judy and dragging Doreen like this. And I didn't realize that Judy was projectile vomiting. And the people were just moving out of the way to get out of the way of her vomit. And it got us up to the front row. So that's how Doreen got on stage with the Supremes.
That's a great story. You got on stage because your sister got sick.
Yeah, well, but that was good times. But yeah, Judy said, we'd be walking down city streets, and where's Judy? And she'd be hanging over a trash can.
A wire mesh trash can. So she's throwing up into it. It's just
Is Judy still with us?
Oh, Judy is still with us. Yeah.
Still getting sick?
Yep.
Still getting sick. I don't think I can handle going with a girl that keeps throwing up.
Oh my God, yeah, can you imagine?
Only when she gets nervous.
Well, then, when we first moved to New York, Billy worked at this little place called the Blue Mill Tavern in the West Village. It was this cute little bar restaurant.
Yeah, right next to it, at the Cherry Lane Theater on Barrow in Bedford. Yeah.
Which is, Bette Midler lived down there. Robert De Niro lived right across the street.
No, actually, Robert De Niro lived with Diane Abbott, his first wife. They lived upstairs on the 4th floor, and they moved out before I started working there. But Sylvain, the owner, used to tell me that they had these knockdown, drag-out fights, just screaming at each other that the whole neighborhood could hear.
De Niro and his wife?
Yeah, Diane Abbott, the first wife.
Oh, Jesus.
But no, it was awesome because I lived in the Village, and it was like, you'd walk out the door and I'd see John Belushi and Dennis Miller and Ron Reagan Jr. lived right around the corner.
I remember that. He lived on 11.
Yeah. Bette lived on Barrow Street. So you walk around and you just see so I was like a kid in a candy store because I was always starstruck. And I just freaking loved it.
You also worked on Raging Bull.
Yeah.
But did you ever talk to him?
Oh yeah, I can tell you I worked 3 days on Raging Bull. Got hired as an extra, and I showed up the first day, and it was for all the fight sequences. They had us in the audience, and what they do is they would film for a while, and then they would shift us all around to another location. So all of the audience you see in the fight sequences in Raging Bull are the same 3 days
same
of
20
shoot.
People.
Yeah, or 100, whatever. But the second day of the shoot, it was one of the producers' birthdays, and so there's 200 men. And they wheel out this enormous birthday cake, must have been 6 feet tall, and had us all sing happy birthday to this guy. And then at the end, the top popped off and this stripper popped out. It's like something I'd never seen in real life, It's like, whoa, this is awesome. But the third day, first of all, when I first got there, they gave me a sailor suit and then a haircut. So on the third day, I was with this other guy, Rock Townsend, and we started up at the top of the aisle and came down, got in our seats. And cheered, and then they'd reset us. They had 2 fighters actually boxing the whole time, so we'd have something to react to, which was cool. But obviously De Niro wasn't there until the third day. And I go up to my spot where I'm supposed to enter, and I'm trying to fix my hair, and I look over and I realize De Niro's standing right next to me. And I mean, this was 1977. De Niro was like God. And I was like, whoa. And I really wanted to talk to him, but you're an extra. You're not supposed to talk to stars. Yeah. But it was like, how many chances am I going to get? It's the third day. If they fire me, they fire me. But I couldn't think of anything to say. So I'm fucking with my hair. And finally I turned to him and I said, what side is my hair parted on? Smooth. And De Niro looks at me. Then he looks at the top of my head, looks back down at me and goes like this. Oh, sorry. Which is pretty much what I did. I know, I'm sorry. I missed your head.
What, he poke you in the eye, Doreen?
No, but he took skin off my head. I'm bleeding.
So anyway, he went, boom. And I went, okay, thanks. Then he went.
Then he didn't wash his head for 4 weeks.
That's all he said. He didn't say nothing.
He didn't say a word. He just hit me on the head with his finger.
Jesus, I always loved De Niro. De Niro was crazy. Him and Al Pacino.
Oh yeah,
Those are the guys. I was in Brooklyn Navy Yards in '77, stationed on a ship that was getting repaired, and I went to the Village. It was around '77. I was out that way for a while.
I think I saw you.
He might have saw me. I wasn't that big. I wasn't a big Italian guy then. I was a skinny kid back then. I was a skinny kid, Doreen.
I know you were. You were cute. You're still cute. What about?
Oh wait, Greta Garbo was the person.
You saw Greta Garbo?
Talk about the cherry on the Sunday. Oh yeah. Well, when I first moved, my first year there, I lived on 52nd Street between 53rd Street between First and Second Avenue. And about 6 months after I'm living there, New York Magazine did a cover story called "Garbo Walks," and they published her daily routine. I mean, this would never happen today, obviously. But they said, oh, every morning she leaves at 10 o'clock and she stops at this market, and then she goes to the chocolatier, and then she goes here, and basically mapped out Greta Garbo for stalkers. So the market that she stopped in was right beneath my apartment. And I went, oh my God. And I said to I was living with this girl, BJ, and I said, BJ, we gotta stake out the market. There were no stalking laws back then, thank God.
That's a crazy name for a girl, BJ.
Yeah, I know. And
Frank's over here
I
going,
hate to cut you off, Billy, but hey, BJ, come here. I can't picture going with a girl named BJ. I'd have a lot of issues with that.
I went all through college with her, and none of us ever thought that. It's like, how bizarre is that? That never crossed our minds that this is like a weird, but yeah, so BJ was so the next day after the magazine came out, I woke up and I said, 10 o'clock, I'm gonna go down and hang out in the market and see if Greta Garbo comes in. So woke up, there's a huge snowstorm going on. So I said, oh, fuck, I'll go down anyway. So I went down, I walk in the market, and it was like one of these little, did you ever see Double Indemnity, the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, remember the little market that Fred McMurray and Barbara Stan would meet in and to talk about stuff? And it looked like that, it was a little neighborhood market. It had glass windows and these wooden shelves that slanted down toward the windows where they put the produce and stuff. So I walk in, I'm the only one there, obviously. It's a freaking snowstorm. Who else is going to be out at 10 o'clock in the morning? And I'm like looking around, just trying to kill time. And the guys that worked there knew me because I lived upstairs. So they both went in the back room at one point. And as soon as they went in the back room, I hear the front door open behind me. And I turn around and Greta Garbo walked in.
Wow.
And John, I was like, yeah, exactly. Wow. Good, probably the most famous movie star of the 20th century. And she had a big fur hat on, a fur coat, big sunglasses. And she walked in and I was just frozen. And there was a big display on the floor of tomato cans that they've done like in a big circular tower thing. And I'm standing right in front of it. And she walks by me and she goes over to the window and she turns to me and she looks around. There's nobody else but me. So she says, I can't reach the artichokes. And I stepped back and into the cans and knocked the whole freaking pile over.
Knocked a pile of cans over while you're talking to Greta Garbo.
And so the guys come running out of the back room. I, meanwhile, run out the door to run upstairs to get BJ. And I go,
to get a BJ or to see BJ?
To get BJ.
Oh, to get BJ. This is getting confusing to me.
let's call her Sally.
Okay. So I go to get Sally. And I go and I said, Sally, wake up. I said, Greta Garbo's downstairs. So she jumps out of bed, throws on these huge pink fuzzy slippers and this fake fur coat. And the two of us go running down the stairs into the snowstorm. And we run down to the corner, and Greta Garbo's coming out of the store just as we get to the corner. I scream, there she is! There's Greta Garbo! And Greta Garbo turns, and this look of terror comes on her face, and she starts running up 2nd Avenue, and we start chasing her. BJ in her slippers, we're running, and I, boom, slipped in the snow and fell, and BJ falls on top of me, and there's this terrified 73-year-old woman running away from us. And
Jesus.
so that was my conversation with Greta Garbo. I can't reach the artichokes. What those talk to me.
So De Niro and Greta Garbo. Those are two serious movie names.
I was like, yeah.
What other movie star did you meet, Billy?
What about David Bowie?
Oh,
you met David Bowie?
well, sort of. I was at a birthday party. I had worked on the movie Divine Madness with Bette Midler out in
Oh,
California.
yeah.
And one of her backup singers was this girl, Diva Gray. And we kept in touch when we came back to New York, and Diva invited me to her birthday party. And she was part of the Chic organization. Remember Chic? With Nils, what's his name? Nils Rogers. Anyway, so there are a lot of people there, music industry people at the party. And I was drunk. And at one point, I was so wasted. I'm talking to somebody, and I just like leaned back against somebody and was letting them support me while I'm talking. And my friend finally leaned up and said, you realize you're leaning against David Bowie, right? And I went, and I looked like this, and there's Bowie's face, like looking at me like this far away. And I went, oh, hey, I'm sorry, man. He went, no worries, mate. And he started laughing. That was David Bowie.
Not many people lean against David Bowie at a party. Tell you that.
He was doing Elephant Man then in New York. He was in the
yeah.
Elephant Man, so that's why he was in New York.
Yeah, I love David Bowie. I was ashamed he passed away. Tom Petty. We lost a lot of great ones the last few years.
Yeah.
Helen Reddy today. Helen Reddy and Mac Davis.
I heard Mac Davis. Helen Reddy passed away.
Reddy died yesterday. Yeah.
How old was she?
78.
78, same age as
Yeah,
him.
she had some good songs back in the day.
Yeah. Well, I Am Woman, the female national anthem back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke.
Oh, that was just when I worked in a dive bar in the village called Characters, and it was a dive bar.
Well, that's when I told. Didn't the owner of the Coyote Ugly Bar bring the girls over
Oh yeah,
to watch?
yeah. The Coyote Ugly Bar used to send her bartenders over to my bar to see how to run a dive bar, how to handle a crowd, because my crowd was great. But I called it a drug, thug, and gun bar. That's what it was. And until I started working there, maybe there was one woman that used to come in. That was it. And then I kind of opened it up. People started feeling safer with me as the bartender because nobody ever messed with me, John. Because I mean, I'm small. There was the whole punching me out would have been like punching out a girl to them. So, and I was able to use humor to like deflect a lot of problems. So the bar became really a hot spot, really great. But but people used to. I shot pool one day with Ethan Hawke for over an hour. Didn't even know who it was until after he left. And then this kid Paco, they said, "Hey Billy, the guy that you were shooting pool with, the guy from Reality Bites." And I said, "Yeah, Ethan." I said, "Oh, that was Ethan Hawke, wasn't it?" But yeah, so Ethan Hawke.
And then you went back and leaned on Bowie.
Mickey Rourke, Johnny Depp, Ed
Mickey
Harris.
Rourke. I like Mickey Rourke.
One night, it was his birthday, I think, and he came in with a group of people. Johnny Depp was with them, and
wow.
They only stayed about an hour. They sat in the back, but it was a crazy bar. But yeah, people would wander in there all the time. But when I worked at the South Street Seaport, a lot of people used to come in there too. We had an anniversary party one year, and Richard Dean Anderson was friends with the owner. So this is when MacGyver was still on. So he showed up. Ray called him Ricky Dean, and so in the middle of the party, I go to the bathroom, and Ricky Dean is at the urinal. And I'm at the sink, and some guy comes out of the stall, and he's shit-faced, and he starts washing his hands and looks over and goes, "Hey, aren't you on that show MacGyver?" And Ricky Dean goes, "Yeah." And the guy goes, "Can't believe that show's still on." Just cracked up. Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Did he laugh?
No. He was kind of put out, actually. That's what made it even funnier.
Kind of upset.
Met Tony Orlando down there one night.
Dawn. Was Dawn with him?
No, the Dawns weren't there. But
Yeah.
he goes to the bathroom, and I said, "All right, I got to get a picture with him." So I ran. They had this little kiosk. They sold disposable cameras and cigarettes. So I bought a camera, and I laid in wait for him outside the employee changing room. When he came back from the bathroom, I knew he'd have to pass it, and he did. So I stopped him, and I, talked him up. And then I said, "Let me get a picture with you." He said, "Yeah, all right." So I said, "Come in here." So we went in the employee locker room, and there was a skirt hanging on a hook that one of the hostesses had worn. And it was just like a black cotton floor-length thing with an elastic head. Man, I said, wait, I'll put this on. I'll be the Dawns. So I put this thing on my head, and I grab his arm, and we take all these pictures. And I said, "Oh, thanks, man."
Oh, man.
So he goes back to his table, and his waiter comes up, a friend of mine, Sean, and Tony Orlando says to Sean, "You know that guy over there?" And Sean said, "Yeah, that's Billy." Tony Orlando said, "That guy's fucking crazy."
Is that what he said?
That's what he said. Coming from someone that was in a loony bin himself, I took that as a compliment.
You got any of these pictures, Billy? You got any of these pictures?
I got nothing. I've lost everything over the years because I moved from New York to Boston to here. My apartment burned down in Boston. I lost everything. In the fire.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what about, you used to hang out at Studio 54 too, right?
Yeah, that was that. Remember the Isle of Lucy where they go to Hollywood and they go, "If we could just find a watering hole with all the stars hanging." Well, that's what Studio 54 was, man.
Did you work there or?
No. What happens? The guy I lived with, his half brother worked for the PR firm that helped open the place, so they had like carte blanche, So yeah, we would show up, and this was like when it was at its peak. I mean, the whole of 54th Street would be packed with people trying to get in. And Rolf and I would just walk up to the front. We didn't have a pot to piss in. We weren't working. We'd show up in jeans and like a t-shirt. And Stevie Rebel would knew Rolf and he'd say, Rolf, Billy, come on in. We'd walk right in.
Wow.
Every night one summer.
And you've seen all the stars there, right? Studio
the very
54.
First night I was there, Rolf said to Steve Rebel, he said, I want to show Billy downstairs. And Steve said, yeah, go ahead. So off the dance floor, there was this huge industrial-like steel door that they always had a guard in front of. So we walked over and the guy opened the door and we went downstairs and it was just like a basement with like dirt floors and like this maze of like half walls. And we open up and it opens up into this room with a sectional sofa, and sitting on the sofa are Steve Rebel, Liza Minnelli, Lorna Luft, Andy Warhol, Halston, Truman Capote, Baryshnikov, and Martha Graham and Bianca Jagger.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. Again, Doreen's thing, I wish I had a VCR. I wish I had a freaking cell phone camera. It was like, and that was my first night at 54. So
it must have been wild.
It was one night, Bianca Jagger had a birthday party. They had her come in on a white horse and then they released like 1,000 doves. Nobody thought about how to get the doves out once they released them. So they sat on the rafters over the dance floor and shit on the dancers the whole night.
Oh, man.
Well, I didn't think this through, did you guys? Gosh, yeah.
I can't imagine hanging around Studio 54, Doreen, huh? That'd be pretty.
I went
Doreen
once.
went, yeah, we took Doreen when she was in town.
You went once?
How old was I?
19 maybe.
And I used to hang around McShawn's. I used to hang around McShawn's pub in Cranston. He said Studio 54 with Andy Warhol. That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, nobody was there the night. Julie and me,
Yeah,
my friend, and I think we were only 17. I
yeah,
wasn't
you might have
living
been
there yet.
77. Yeah, you were
Were
77.
there any stars there that night, Doreen, when you went?
Keith Davis, no. This
From
friend
all
of
the
ours,
20th
that was,
century,
yeah, friend of ours was
He
on
was-
Broadway.
Yeah, he was in the show on the 20th Century with Kevin Kline and Madeline
Imogene
Kahn.
Coca.
And but yeah, so one night we used to meet Keith after the show. We hook up and go to 54, and we wanted some weed one night. And Keith said, "Oh, I think Kevin has some. Kevin Kline." So we said, "Come on, we'll go down."
Kevin Kline.
Yeah, Kevin.
I love
Kline.
him. Yeah, he's great.
Oh, I do too, man. So Keith knocks on his door and he yells, "Come in!" And we come in, and he's in the shower right in front of me. And I was like totally naked, his head all lathered up. And Keith said, "Hey, Kevin, this is my friend Billy. We're looking for some pot." And Kevin Kline said, "Oh, it's in my top drawer of the table over there. Help yourselves." So we helped ourselves. And nice meeting you, thanks. But
That's a nutty story, man.
then I worked on Willie and Phil, and Margot Kidder was in that one, and we shot in a high school on the Upper West Side. They said, go change up in the bathroom upstairs. So I walk in the bathroom, and because it's a high school bathroom, there's no doors on the stalls. Margot Kidder is sitting on the toilet peeing. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. They told me to come here to change." She said, "No, that's all right. Go ahead and change." So I'm changing my clothes and see to Margot Kidder.
That's nuts. She played Lois Lane in Superman, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
She went crazy.
Yeah, she went crazy. Yeah.
And they had her
Crazy.
she was on The Simpsons. Crazy Margot Kidder on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And what about well, you went to school with Ron Palilla,
Oh yeah, went to UConn with Ron
Horseshack.
from.
Oh, I love Horseshack. He died a few years ago, I think. Right?
Yeah. That was
He was seemed like he was a nice guy. He was funny.
He was great, man. We went to UConn together. We were in the theater department, and so when he got Cotter, I went out to California for my brother's wedding, and I called him up, and he said, "Oh, come on over. I want to show. I just bought a house." So I go to his house, and it had been Sandra Dee's house that he bought, and he hadn't changed the decor at all. He said, "Come here, you've got to see Sandra Dee's bedroom." So it was like when you pull up to the house, it looked like one story, but then it was built on a cliff, so it had like a double. It dropped down. The whole back wall was glass looking out. It was beautiful, and the bedroom was downstairs. So we walk in. The bedroom was all brown velvet. The wallpaper had a big circular bed. If you pushed one button, the bed started turning. If you pushed another button, the chiffon curtain spun around it. If you pushed another button, and a velvet curtain spun around outside the chiffon curtain. It was like unbelievable. So
Jesus.
Like a 60s movie star kind of bedroom.
Yeah, but it sounds dizzying. Judy would have
Well,
thrown up.
it
I got enough trouble being in a bed. Never mind curtains spinning around me. I would get distracted.
And then he'd go. But my favorite Ron story from UConn, Ron had this girl that had a total crush on him. Her name was Coots. And she was an old.
Did she know BJ?
No, Coots did. Yeah, Coots knew BJ.
BJ
Actually,
and
of course.
Coots. That sounds like a funny film.
Rizzoli and Isles.
Yeah, BJ and Coots.
So we're at our friend's house, Pat Kellis, and Coots and Ron were once again fighting because, of course, her love was unrequited. And they got in a big fight, and Coots took an ashtray and threw it across the room at Ron and hit him in the nose, and then it fell down onto the couch.
His nose?
So, yeah, Ron. So Ron turned, my nose, you broke my fucking nose. And Coots runs out of the house hysterical. So we're trying to like tend to Ron, and somebody comes in from outside and said, what's going on with Coots? I said, what? She said, she's down kneeling in front of the tailpipe of her car in the parking lot. And we went, what? Coots is killing herself? So we all go running downstairs to the parking lot, and we're down there pulling this hysterical Coots off the tailpipe. And all of a sudden somebody says, look, Pat, there's flames coming out of Pat's house. When she threw the ashtray, there was a cigarette in it, and it fell into the sofa, caught fire.
You gotta be shitting me. Horseshack's house was on fire?
Oh, no, the person we were visiting. Yeah, the person.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Horseshack's house. I'm losing track of what's going on here.
Horseshack's nose is broken. Coots is sucking on a tailpipe, and the girl's house is burning down.
So,
Just another average night for Billy.
Oh my God. You do not. What about, how about Greg Kinnear?
oh, okay. Greg Kinnear I met in Boston. I worked at Stephanie's on Newberry.
Yeah.
And he came in one night, and I had lived with this. I had lived with a guy named Jeremy Jordan, who not
Kiss
the one.
Me? Never been kissed?
Yeah, I'd never been
With
kissed.
Drew Barrymore?
He played like the kid that brought her to the prom. He
Oh,
played
was it?
like the cool kid.
Was it
And-
Drew Barrymore?
Yeah, it was Drew Barrymore. Yeah, yeah. And he had this big hit that he used to play on 90210. But anyway, he got a call to audition for As Good as It Gets, for the part that Skeet Ulrich ultimately got, the Hustler. So, you know, I worked the script with him before he had his audition, and there was a great scene in it that was the best scene I thought in the script, the funniest, with Nicholson. And when the movie came out, the scene wasn't there. So when I saw Greg Kinnear, I said to him, hey, I said, I want to ask you, I said, I saw the copy of the original script, and they cut the scene where when they're on their road trip back, they see the Hustler that is, you know, beaten up Greg Kinnear and, you know, put him in the hospital and whatnot. They see the Hustler in an underpass, and they say, oh, to Jack Nicholson, detain him while we get the cops. So Nicholson gets out of the car and goes up to Greg Kinnear, or goes up to the guy. And I said, what happened to that scene? And Greg Kinnear goes, oh, I know exactly the scene you're talking about. And then in a perfect Jack Nicholson imitation, he goes, I'd like to purchase a blowjob. And just as he said it, the music went off in the restaurant. And he said, really like, I'd like to purchase a blowjob. And all of a sudden I see everybody and Stephanie's like turning around looking, what the hell?
Greg Kinnear said this?
Yeah. And a perfect Nicholson imitation. It was awesome. It was really, the two of us are howling, laughing over it. And he said the scene got cut just for time reasons, but
Yeah.
let's see.
How was he? Was he a nice guy, Greg Kinnear?
Terrific. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, he's done pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's he done lately?
I don't know if the last thing, he worked a lot, but I
Yeah.
can't remember the last thing he did.
He was talented.
Yeah, he is.
Who
He started on
else?
Talk Soup, didn't he?
Yeah, I saw him in a movie. He played Bob Crane, the Bowie's Heroes.
Yeah.
He got murdered. They made a movie, the Bob Crane story, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of interested in that, the way, because they never really, they
The
think his
woman
friend
involved.
murdered him, and they never pinned it on him, and went to trial and all that, you know.
Yeah, that was a bizarre story.
Yeah, he was pretty good in that, Greg Kinnear.
Yeah, he's a talented guy.
And what about Madonna?
Oh, Madonna I just saw. I went to a Katie Lang concert at Radio City, and which was bizarre because I felt like I was at a Frank Sinatra concert in 1942, surrounded by Bobby Soxers. Only the Bobby Soxers were lesbians, and just screaming and crying like they were watching. Like it was unbelievable. Like Katie, weird. So I left after what I thought was the last song, but it turned out she did two more. So I'm standing outside waiting for my friends to come out, and all of a sudden this door on the side of the building flies open, and Madonna comes out, and she was with Iris Chacon, that woman that she was hanging around with for a while. And the only other person on the sidewalk was this little Japanese kid with a camera. So he starts taking pictures. So Madonna and Nira Chacon get in the limo, and the car sits there for a minute. And then all of a sudden the back door opens and this enormous black guy gets out of the car, goes up to the Japanese kid. I'll try not to scratch you.
I will bite you, so be careful.
Puts his hand on the kid's head like this, grabs the camera, and pushes the kid, takes the camera, throws the camera into the car, and gets in the car after it, and they drive off. And the poor Japanese kid's laying on the ground going, my camera, my camera.
Oh, man.
It's the only time I saw Madonna close up in New York. And,
when was that about? Did you see her?
that was about 80. When did Raiders of the Lost Ark come out? 80, 81?
I don't know.
Because it was
when she was relevant.
yeah, so it was like 80, 81.
Yeah, she was big at one time, Madonna. She's still, I mean, you're not into it. I mean,
She should just stay home now and just be Madonna. We don't want to see her naked Madonna body because it's still 6 years old.
Yeah. Botoxed face.
Yeah.
What about any other rock stars you saw?
Let's see. Nick Ashford from Ashford and Simpson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he pulled me out of a toilet in Studio 54 one night.
He pulled you out of a toilet?
We had been to see the Harlettes, had played at Reno Sweeney.
The Harlettes are Bette Midler's backup group.
Oh no, actually, it was after Bette played the Copa with the Harlettes, because I remember we went to 54 with the Harlettes, me and my friend Eric, and Steve Rebell was like, he used to reach the front door, hey, how you guys doing? He'd have in one pocket he'd have cocaine, the other pocket he'd have Quaaludes, and he'd say, you want some coke? Want some Quaaludes?
Jesus.
So I took something, I don't know what, but I got really sick like an hour after we were there. So I'm up in the bathroom worshiping at the porcelain. Just, I throw it up and I was just like, ugh. And all of a sudden I hear a knock on the door and the stall door goes, you okay in there, dude? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I was just sick. And it was Nick Ashford. And he said, dude, can I help you? I said, no, I'm just going to go home. He goes, let me help you. Nick Ashford helped me down the stairs, out to the street, got me a cab, put me in the cab, asked me if I needed money for the cab. I mean, just the nicest guy.
That's really nice.
It was really
Is he
nice.
still alive?
No, he died. He died a few years ago.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a lot of stories, Billy. I'm really into the Studio 54. I can't imagine being there back in the day. I read about the place, all the stars that used to go there, and that's pretty wild that you went there.
What's weird, it had this smell when you walked in. When I saw the movie 54, and they did that shot where you went in the entrance and they showed like the hallway. I had a sensory moment. I smelled the place again. It had a certain smell when you walked in that was like unique, and I could smell it. It brought it back to me so strong.
That place was packed all the time back in the day, right?
Oh, yeah, huge, unbelievable. Yeah, if you're going to be 54, well, like I said, we were so lucky we had the connection because they never would have let somebody that looked like us and looked like me if we didn't know people. But
you ever see anybody like Michael Jackson in there or Diana Ross?
No, Diana Ross I never saw there. We'd see like all those people I mentioned that were on the couch, plus Andy Warhol. I told you Andy Warhol. The Village People, used to hang out with them up in the balcony and smoke pot.
Wow.
Disco Sally, that old lady that showed up every night. She was like a 90-year-old lawyer, and she would show up and run. There was a guy named Roller Arena that used to go around the village on roller skates and like a pink tutu and mask. And I think he was a stockbroker during the day on Wall Street. And at night he would roller skate around the village with this magic wand. And he would, when it's 54 open, he'd be at 54 every night.
So there was a lot of characters in New York back then. There always is a lot of characters in New York, but back then.
Yeah, New York was awesome in the 70s. It was before AIDS. It was before.
I was only, like I said, I was only there for about 7 months on that ship before they transferred me. But I was 19 years old, Doreen, in New York City. I remember the first day of Liberty when we got off the ship, went downtown New York, Times Square, bunch of sailors all dressed in our uniforms. These girls come walking up by us, and I just grabbed one, and I was so happy. I just grabbed her and I gave her this big kiss.
Like the World War
and she smiled and she walked away, and I'm like, if I did that today, I'd be in jail for 15 years.
Oh,
Yes,
that,
you would.
that was the other great thing. about
Back
this
then, it
story.
was an innocent time. It was the 70s. 70s were the best.
Yeah, they
70s
really,
it was an innocent time. Everything went, and it was just it was none of this politically correct. Well, you didn't have to worry about much back in the 70s, man. It was just partying and
it
having
really
a good time, and that was it. You know, and then I kissed that girl. Like I said, if I did that now,
Yeah, but would you? You don't know where her mouth's been.
yeah, now you got to worry about everything.
Okay.
But now you got to worry about the COVID and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
You never know. I might have kissed BJ too. So
Exactly.
you mean Sally?
Sally.
My roommate, Sally.
Sally.
Oh, you'll like this. In 1973, the Pointer Sisters did their first concert in New York City at Rose.
Oh wow.
Okay, so we drove down from I was at UConn still. We drove down, 4 of us. And so we were like right on the front of the line, and we take turns. We were there for like a couple of hours, and we take turns like walking around and holding the place. About a month later, I'm back on campus, and this friend of mine comes up and says, "Hey, Billy, your picture's in Ebony magazine this month." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, they did an article on the Pointer Sisters concert in New York, and you're in one of the pictures." I went, "Oh, awesome." So I was on my way to class, but I swung by like the drugstore, and they had like 10 copies. So I bought all 10 copies, and I'm going to my class, and I'm seeing people like, hey, I'm in this somewhere. I'm in this. And I get to class, and I open up the magazine, and there's the picture, and there I am, and I look at the caption, and it says, "Most of the Pointer Sisters fans are either black or gay." And I look at the picture, and I'm the only person in the picture that's not black. I was like, what the? Oh my God, I've just been outed by Ebony.
How many people can say that?
You know, I was outed. I was so embarrassed. I was so pissed at the time.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, stupid stuff happens to him. Just stupid stuff happens to you. Working for Eddie Murphy, not the Eddie Murphy,
Oh,
the private eye.
yeah.
He was.
I worked with a private. He had been a New York City cop, then he left to open his own private detective agency, and there was a guy that was picking up guys in gay bars and then dismembering them and leaving them in garbage bags along the Jersey Turnpike.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm laughing.
So the guys he was doing this to were my physical type. So Eddie Murphy worked security on the weekends at the restaurant I worked in, so that's how I knew him. So he said to me, "Billy," he said, "do you want to come work for me?" He goes, I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "You have to work for me 2 years to get your private eye license." And I was like, "Yeah, all right, this is my new career." So he goes, "Okay, here's the case." He goes, "The New York City police can't put people undercover in these bars because they'd stand out. So they've hired me to help them with this case. You're going to be the bait. I'm going to send you into the bars, and I'll wait outside." I said, "Well, no." He said, "Well, there won't be much danger." I said, "What do you mean there won't be much danger? You don't know how he's getting these people out of the bars." And what I said, so I quit. And they never caught. It was only about 5 years ago. I think they actually resolved the case. They found out who was doing it, but it went
Really?
unsolved for years.
40 years.
The only thing I remember when I was I would come home on the weekends when I was stationed in New York. I'd take the train home sometime, and I would take the night owl out of Providence back to New York City, the last train. I get to New York at like, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning. I'd have to take a subway, and then I have to wait at a dock bus stop to go to the ship. And the Son of Sam was a big thing in '77. He was going around shooting people, and so I'm on this dock corner waiting for a bus. I'm thinking, I'm 19. The Son of Sam's I'll be easy. Just pick me off. I was nervous. Like that guy, he terrorized that city.
Yeah.
I remember. Yep.
A period of time there. He was nuts.
At first he was concentrating in one area, and then he went to a whole other area, and they had no. It was a parking ticket, I think, that caught him, right?
I don't remember. I mean,
yeah.
You can't. Back then there were no cameras, no DNA.
Yeah.
No so they
lucked out. They found it. His car had been issued a ticket.
Remember that story? That was a funny story.
Right next to
Frank was just saying the time when you were waiting for the tea, and the repo guy picked you up.
Well, that was in Boston.
That was a funny story.
all right, tell that story, Billy.
It was like 2:00 in the morning, and I had just gotten off work at a bar, and I was walking up
No, Beacon.
Beacon Street. Yeah, thank you. I'm on the corner of Beacon Street, waiting to try to find a cab to take me up to Cleveland Circle to get cigarettes. This car pulls up, big black guy inside. He says, "You need a ride?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I get in the car. He goes, "Well, I just have to make one stop." And he turns down this street and says, "I'll be right back. Wait here." And he goes down this alley behind the apartments, like they have in Boston. And all of a sudden, I hear this yelling. And this car comes screeching out of the driveway, and he's behind the wheel. And he says, "Follow me." So I get behind the wheel of his car, big car. I haven't driven in 20 years. So I'm following him, not knowing what the hell is going on.
And this is funny because you've not seen Billy drive. So that in itself is really fun.
And it's like a 15, 20-minute drive. We end up in the Jamaica Plain or Dorchester somewhere. And he says to me, "Oh, thanks, man. I'm a repo man, and I had to repossess that car." It's like, you couldn't have told me that? And then I saw him 3 days later. He came by my house because he brought me home, obviously, that night after he used me as an accomplice. And he told me that he took the wrong car. It wasn't even supposed to be that car that he took. He fucked up.
Jesus. So you had a repo man that was a little wacky.
You went to jail.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Went to jail?
No,
No,
I could have.
Because
Well,
he
he
repoed
could've.
the wrong car, which would make that a car theft.
Which is what all the screaming was about. Because some guys are like, "What are you doing with my car?"
Oh my God.
Hey, one time, I don't know if you guys are in downtown Providence where Haven Brothers is. There used to be a place called Mike's Diner. And I had it's like Haven Brothers, like the truck, with the food. So me and my buddy had gone out drinking. I left my car downtown Providence. I had a lime green Chevy Impala, honest to God. Beautiful car, Billy. Beautiful leather seats. It was lime green, not a scratch on it. I bought it from this guy. He used to run a corner store in my house. And I was all excited about the car. And so anyway, I get this lime green car. I park it downtown. We go out drinking. So my buddy, we have our hot dogs. It's 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. So, all right, I'll see you, Ted. I'll see you. And I go to walk to my car, and I'm yelling at my friend because my car's not there. So I couldn't believe my car got stolen. So I called the police, made a report. So I go with, Ted takes me to his house. He says, "I got an old beat-up Chevy Nova. You can take that." So now I'm thinking, I got to find my car. So I go back to Providence. I got a lime green car. If it's driving around, you're going to see it.
Right.
All of a sudden, I look, there's my car. Two young kids, teenagers or whatever, they're in my car driving. I've never heard this happen to anybody else. So I pull next to my car. I'm at a red light, and I look and I see these 2 kids, so I follow them. Now I'm following my car. There's no cops anywhere. Finally, I pull next to them at a red light. I had enough. I said, "Hey, you mother, get out of my freaking car." They look at me. They take off. I take off. Now I'm going on a high-speed chase through Providence at like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? They go down some side street. They jump out of the car. They run. Now I'm with my car, my friend's car behind it, my car, the lime green car. I'm beeping the horn. Not one house opened the window and look. Is anybody dying out there or nobody? So now I got to leave my car and go around the corner, Billy, call the cops and tell them what's going on. They come. Of course, I'm drunk. So now back then there was no drunk driving back then. It hadn't really got big yet. So the cop said, "You're not driving. We'll drive you home. We'll drive your car home." So now I couldn't believe it. I went to work the next day. And nobody could believe me that I found my own car
Right. That's so funny.
in 2 hours after it got stolen. I've never heard this happen to anybody. I don't know. That's a crazy story.
Unusual, man.
I had an old boyfriend who, when I was out with somebody else, stole the car. So we got stuck. And then he returned the car to my house, in the middle of the night and said he found it. I don't think so. Look what I found. Like, yeah. Okay, Arroyo. What about Savin Rock stories?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Did you ever hear Savin Rock in Connecticut? Right outside of New Haven.
It was like a
It was like
Coney
Rocky
Island.
Point. Or,
Oh, yeah.
a little Coney Island or a little Atlantic City.
Yes, and our grandfather owned a block of stands, games of chance. We're carny folk. But he ran Davy's dart game, win a prize every time. And it was like a board full of little cars.
You're going to hit me.
My dream.
Does he always abuse you, Doreen, like this?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, no.
Really?
He broke my collarbone.
It was
Did
an
he?
accident.
How old were you when that happened, Doreen?
Like a year.
No, you were like
Yes.
3 or 4.
Oh.
Yeah, you fell off the couch.
No, you and Michael were throwing me back and forth, and
Oh,
one
is
of you
that how it
dropped me.
happened?
Yeah.
Oh, they were throwing you back and forth?
Yeah.
Frank does that on Saturday nights, right?
Right now, Frank does that. Frank does it.
But yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that don't.
So you know, you throw it there, a dart, hit a card, little card, and there'd be a prize on the back. So when we were little, my brother and I used to go down and we'd play, and of course, every time we won, it was like this huge, you know, big stuffed animal. Until like we were shills until a crowd gathered. Then we'd go around the back and hand our prizes back in the back door to my father, and the next people would get like ceramic salt and pepper shakers, you know, crap like that. But my uncle Frenchie ran the balloon dart game, and the way that works is the balloons were like this industrial strength rubber that nothing would pop, and the darts
You
were
shoot
like,
that with bullets.
and the darts were like this, you know, they just bounce off. So, and but my favorite was the ring toss that our Aunt Ag ran. Aunt Ag was a character. She looked like Betty Davis and whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Oh, man.
Instead of blonde hair, she had bright orange red hair with like black
Oh,
eyeliner, white lip,
Like Lucille
face.
Ball.
But
Rumor has it she would turn tricks.
in the back of her skin. We're not saying that. But she would demonstrate, oh, look, see, the ring goes over the block. And she'd put it like this. The only way the ring went over the block is if it came directly from above. From any angle, there was no way in hell the ring would go over. So don't ever play a ring toss game because it's so rigged. So growing up at Savin Rock, I mean, we knew everything was rigged. And so gambling is like the one vice I've never, ever embraced. And I think it's because of our Savin Rock background.
Yeah, unfortunately, my friend's father was a bookie. When I was 14, we started betting $10 on football games, and I wound up many years on and off with a gambling. I finally walked away from it. That was probably one of the best things I ever did because I used to go to Twin River, the slots, the dogs when the dogs were up there, and I never won. Like once in a while, I won. Almost every time I lost. It was crazy. It was the biggest waste of money. And one day I quit gambling, but I bought scratch tickets. I was buying about $300 a month of scratch tickets. My friend said, that's a car payment. Why don't you just stop buying them? And I looked at him. And I said, he's right. And I stopped buying them that day. I got to credit my friend Pete. I have not bought a scratch ticket in 3.5 years.
Yeah, good.
I walked away from gambling.
All you do, you win once, and that's it. You're hooked.
You can't win. You can't win. Yeah, you win 1,000 and you lose 5,000.
Well, I got to tell you, I never gambled. I never bought a scratch ticket until I was like almost 40 years old. And on the very first scratch ticket I hit for $750, which I immediately reinvested in scratch tickets.
Oh.
Played for a couple of months, never won again, of course. And I finally realized, you're being an idiot. So
yeah. I used to be convinced. Yeah, I was convinced that I was going to win the big. Like I walked into a corner store, and this girl who worked there, she wasn't supposed to buy tickets, but she said it was her father's. That way that she could cash it in. She won it was like a $35,000 winner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so when I saw people, I knew people that hit 10,000, 20,000. I really thought I was going to hit it big, like one of these things. I was so bad at gambling that I bet the 5 dog. I went up before the bell went off at Twin River and was linking down. And I bet the 5 dog like $100 on this dog. The bell rings. I get the bet and I go running over to look. I don't see him. They're showing where the heck is he? I see the replay. They come around that first turn when it used to be, if you ever been at a dog track, the dogs are running and they all kind of go, and one of them went into him. The dog I bet, the 5 dog, he banged him. He went off the rail and broke his neck. The dog, honest to God, I felt so. The dog broke his neck. The next day I looked in the paper, they had to put the dog to sleep. So I bet a dog that died. I'm telling you, I bet Larry Bird and the Celtics, they took Larry Bird out of the game with a bad back. They were winning by 20. They wound up losing the game. I'm telling you, I am the worst gambler. If you ever want to win money, ask me who I like. I bet Roger Clemens once. Roger Clemens was beating the Yankees 9-0 in Yankee Stadium. You figure that's it. I would take that all day long. The Yankees exploded. And they won like 22-12 or something. It was crazy.
So you have no vices left.
Nothing left. I quit drinking. I don't smoke. I quit gambling. I'm on a diet. I got nothing left. I walk around and try to think, what can I get addicted to next? I don't know. I don't know, Billy. There's got to be something I can do.
Yeah, TV. Bad TV shows.
That's my addiction.
Maybe I got to stop plastering with Frank, and maybe I'll get addicted to plastering.
You don't want to do that shit.
Here's Frank. Say hi, Frank.
Frank, I just want to work 5 hours a week, and I want $600 a week. I'll do a good job for you.
You got it.
Just overprice the job. That's all.
But the story, we went to he worked as a bouncer in a bar near your house.
In Boston.
In
We were
Boston.
bouncing in Boston.
I remember this story. The guy's giving you a hard time, and they were scared of you. You got on a milk rack because the guy was so big, and you stood on the milk box, and you said, "Don't fuck around over here. You're going to get in trouble." And the guy said, "Guy looked at you on the milk rack." I'll never forget. I didn't dream this. Guy looked at the milk rack and said, "Okay."
Well, it's so unexpected. I mean, they think I'm crazy because
Or
why would
carrier.
somebody?
Crazy, carrying, or connected.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the 3 C's. That's why I controlled the bar in New York too. Everybody thought I was either crazy, carrying, or connected because there was no explanation for somebody like me to be, you know. And I was crazy. I was stupid crazy, you know.
Yes. Well, your friend Tommy,
Oh,
with the gun to the head, I already called last call. I want a drink. Sorry, I called last call. He has a gun to his head.
To your head, Billy?
yeah. He reached across the bar. He just got out of prison too, and he reached across the bar and put a gun to my forehead, and he said, "Don't disrespect me." And I said, "You know, dude, I've taken care of you all night long." I said, "If I give you a drink, then everybody else is going to think they can have a drink." I said, "You want to shoot me? Shoot me. I'm fucking sick of this shit." And I turned around and I walked away from him, expecting to hear.
Jesus, Billy.
But he
Instead, they
became
became
like
best
my
friends.
bodyguard after that. He was so flipped out that I reacted like that because he had, the whole neighborhood was afraid of this guy. He had a reputation since he was a kid of being a psycho.
You were crazier than him.
Yeah, he was so impressed that I walked away from him that he became like my personal bodyguard. I never had a problem in the bar after that. Even when he went back to jail, which wasn't very long after that, he was still so connected to the neighborhood that nobody would fuck with Billy because he was Tommy's boy.
That's crazy, man.
Well, and when I worked doorman in Boston at Washington Square Tavern, I was there for 10 years, only had one fight the whole time, an Irish pub. What are the chances of that? And in that one, that only happened because one guy was outside, one guy was inside, and I was in between them trying to throw this guy, and the guy punched the guy right over my head. There was so much over me. I saw this fist come over my head, boom, and knocked the guy right in the face. The guy went flying back on the sidewalk. That was the only fight in my bar. And they wouldn't have had that one if I'd been taller.
You're an
Billy, are you calmed down now these days, or you still
No.
Yes, I am.
still not calmed down?
Nah, I'm so calm. I'm so calm. I'm dead.
We don't have as much crazy stuff happening now, right?
Hell no. No.
Hell no.
I'm way too old, way too tired.
Got to chill now.
I'm in retirement.
Says me too.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking to you guys, man.
The world is so different too, John. It's like,
Yeah, well, the 70s to now, I mean, I would give anything to have the 70s back. That was the decade. The 70s, that was the decade. That was it.
really was. Looking back, that was the best.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. John, you know what I'm doing now? But
What?
nobody knows it. So I am now an ordained minister at the Universal Life Church, and I'm offering celebrity weddings. So if you want to share your wedding day, I can be Cher. Or who are you marrying? Joan Rivers, Britney. You can be married by, RBG.
Oh, that's cool.
Just like a
so it's
celebrity wedding.
like the
How did you come up with that idea? That's a great idea.
Lots of time on my hands.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. So if you know anybody that
Wouldn't you like to redo your vows?
No,
So I want to.
I've done enough vows. I give up. There's no more vows left in me.
Vows, not vows.
Frank, I'm done with the vows.
Frank still doesn't, he doesn't know how he got married again, so.
So that's a great idea you come up with,
Isn't it?
Doreen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, so you're just starting to promote that?
Yeah, and I haven't really even promoted it yet because I'm still working on, did I tell you I'm doing a TV show too?
You mentioned that before,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're almost done with the pilot episode of that. So once that's done, then I'll start promoting. You know, I put a couple of things up on Facebook and Instagram, but I have to, I don't know, I have to get in some kind of register. So when you're going, you know, ministers,
That's a really good, that's one of the best ideas I've heard in the pandemic that somebody's come up with. That's a great idea. Yeah, you're pretty smart for a blonde.
Tell the joke of the one.
So Frank's favorite joke, three blondes walk into a building. You think one of them would have seen it. Oh, don't
You guys are nuts.
Oh, yes.
So this has been a lot of fun, you guys. I had a lot of fun talking with Doreen and Billy Collins. This was great. You got a lot of great stories, Billy. Doreen's always good to have Doreen on.
Thank you.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up? Do we
don't
cover
think
it all, Billy?
Yeah, say what?
We cover it all. We got De Niro. We got Greta Garbo. We got Madonna. We got
Well, I had a couple of Bette Midler stories if you want.
yeah. Throw a Bette Midler story out. I love Bette Midler.
When she did Divine Madness,
Yep.
she did it on Broadway, and I happened to go to a lot of the shows. Then they went out to California to film it, and it so happens that another roommate of mine from UConn, girl Jackie Weiss, was working for the guy that was producing the movie. So she called me up, like after a couple of weeks, and said, "Listen, her first job was to compile a script, a shooting script out of tapes from the concert, but because of the tapes were bad, she couldn't hear and understand a lot of the stuff. So she said, 'Do you know what she said here? Do you know what she said there?' And every time she called me, I had the answer. So after like 3 weeks of this back and forth, she calls me up and said, 'Listen, Howard Jeffrey, the producer, really appreciate your help. We want to fly you out at our expense to come to the filming.' And I said, I was there. So got there, spent 3 weeks watching the rehearsals, the filming. It was pretty amazing. Tony Basil was her choreographer.
Oh,
Tony
yeah.
Basil had a boyfriend named Spaz Attack. I think it was a punk rocker.
Spaz Attack.
So Bet's band was wearing all black. And this guy went to the band and said, 'Hey, you know, they're making you wear black so that you won't show up on the screen. Because what you got to do is you got to cut big holes and things in your shirt so your skin shows, and then you'll show up.' So these idiots did it. And of course, you know, they show up on stage the next night for the rehearsal, and then the producers flipped out, made them put back their regular clothes. Then Spaz Attack sent a bill to the production company for $500 for costume design. And Bet had viral pneumonia during that whole period. She was sick as a dog, but if she canceled the filming, she would have had to give up $1 million bond, and she wasn't about to give up $1 million. So she said, "I'm going to power through it." But they had oxygen tanks in the wings. They had an ambulance at the stage door. And after every song, she would literally go off stage and throw up, take oxygen. So if you watch Divine Madness now, it's pretty remarkable, the circumstances under which they filmed it. I mean, she was sick as a dog.
Wow.
And she got through it.
Wow. I always loved Bette Midler. Yeah, she's great voice, great. I loved her in The Roles and
One of the best, yeah. Yeah,
some other movies she was in.
So,
Yeah.
but Michael Ritchie directed it, and he had never seen her in concert, never did a music film. His big concern was she could only be photographed from one side. She only had one good side, he said. So it was kind of a rocky production in the beginning. My friend Jackie told me that they had meetings. Bet came in. She wanted to do a kabuki opening. It's like, they talked her out of that. Then she wanted to do Pirate Jenny as an opening. They talked her out of that, thank God. But it was, Bruce Valanche was there all the time. Luther Vandross was one of her off-stage backup singer.
Yeah, you were there for all of this?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So you met Bette Midler in a few times, huh?
Yeah. In fact, I was the one, the first night of filming, I was in like the 6th row on the aisle, and like 15 minutes before they started the show, Jackie comes running up and says, "Billy, Bet wants fans in the front row because they had they had the continuity girl and all the studio people in the front row. And she said, Bet wants fans. Will you sit in the front row? And I went, of course. So I sat in the front row. And then during her Dolores Delago in the wheelchair bit, she would get out of the wheelchair at one point and crawl down to the edge of the stage and, call some guy up and smooch him, and harlots would come. I'd seen the show on Broadway. So I knew well, she picked me that first night. So, she called me up and she's all over smooth. You have the prettiest brown eyes, and the harlots pulled her off. So the next morning I get a phone call at Jackie's house, and it's the Ladd Company, it's the studio. And they said, listen, we need you to be in the same seat and wear the same clothes tonight, tomorrow, because they filmed over 3 nights. We'll send a studio car for you. So all of a sudden I got like this royal VIP treatment because.
But unfortunately, he had gone home and cut holes in that shirt.
So my mom, yeah. So no, so for 3 days, the studio picked me up and I went and they did the thing. And then the whole bit ended up on the cutting room floor. But yeah. I keep hoping to like release a DVD with like cut footage, and I'll have a record of it. But listen, the same band that cut their holes in their shirt. The 3rd day of the filming, I was hanging out in front of the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, in the afternoon, doing nothing. The band was out there playing with frisbees and shit. This guy, and one of the band comes up and he says, "Hey, dude, this is really funny. There's a guy that's been at every show that looks just like you."
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
funny.
It's gonna be pretty cool to have met Bette Midler. I mean, that's pretty cool with itself. De Niro, and you had a lot of great stories.
Well, the first time I met her, I got fired from a production of Fiddler on the Roof my senior year at UConn. And the day of the show opened, my roommate said, "Come on, we're going to Hartford, so we're not here on campus while the show goes on." So we went into Hartford, and the Bushnell Auditorium was there, and we said, "Let's see what's going on there." Bette Midler was playing that night. This was 1973. And I said, "Whoa, this is that woman that, Dick Gray was talking about in New York. Let's see if there's tickets." So we went up. There had just been a cancellation for 2 seats in the front row, all the way on the end, but front row. So that's the first time I saw Bette from the front row, which is the way you have to see her. So after the show, we went to this restaurant I worked in at the time in Hartford, the Last National Bank. And Bette's entourage and band and crew and her and Aaron Russo show up for dinner at like 11:30. So they put them in the back room, and the waitress that had the station was really frazzled because she was like all over the place. I said, "I'll wait on Bette." And she said, "Oh, would you?" So I left my dinner. I put on an apron and I went and I waited on Bette because I just really wanted to meet her.
Jesus.
So we finished, the meal finishes, and she's getting up to leave. And I said, "I got to tell you, I saw you tonight." And I said, "I'm not going to tell you how good you are because you obviously must know how good you are." I said, "But you gave me the happiest 2 hours I have ever had in a theater." And she said, "You were in the front row, weren't you? All the way on the end." And I went, yeah, that was me. And she said, "Oh my God, you are so sweet." And she took me and she gave me a big smooch. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
I stayed out with Bette Midler on 4 different nights.
Jesus, that's pretty cool, Billy. That's pretty wild. Then we got Frank over there. He hasn't even met Patrice Wood.
The cutaway to Frank.
Frank, who did you meet? Who did Frank meet?
I met nobody.
You met nobody.
Kelly Bates.
You just go in and plaster her. That's it.
No, he's actually plastering James Taylor's house.
James Taylor?
Yes.
Where's he live? On
Should you don't tell?
He's building a house in Jamestown.
is he really?
Yeah.
Of course, because his name is James Taylor.
He showed up the other day. He's got 45 columns, cement columns, holding up the house. And he loves this guy. He loves cement. And whoever poured the actual columns did a lousy job. So the contractor hired us to grind all the extra cement that were on the columns. All the corners are all uneven, and cement them all and make them look neater. So that's what we did. And now the contractor wants us to plaster the house when they're ready. In fact, I just talked to him today. Not James Taylor, the contractor. About another 2 months, the house will be ready, and we'll plaster. But last week, we're working, and all of a sudden, I see this guy pull up on a 10-speed bike. He's got a golf cap on, horn-rimmed glasses, khaki pants with glacier boots. You know the old rubber boots that they used to clam and dig and go in the water?
Yeah.
He got a 10-speed bike with saddlebags. You figure he'd pull up in a Bentley or something. It's James Taylor. He pulls up, parks his bike, And, you know, he had his entourage with him, architects and whoever else, decorators are with him and everything. He said, you guys did this? And no, I said, no, they did it. My partners, I pointed to my partner, no, I didn't do anything, they did it. He said, beautiful job. I said, yeah, I had a little part in it. So, right? And real nice guy. He buys the guys beer, you know, guys that are working at the house. He goes around, picks up wood and everything to straighten out the, you know, the grounds and everything. Super nice guy.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
The guy does $200,000 a week in royalties.
Wow.
And he's worth about, we all looked him up, of course, 65 million. We found that on Google. Wow. And he, I guess he does 200,000, 10,000 a week, or 40,000, whatever. No, 40,000 a month.
10,000 a week.
Wow. And royalties.
Oh, that's not bad, huh?
Super nice guy.
Wow.
Jesus. We gotta wrap this up. I think we covered everything.
I know.
We got Frank involved. Billy had a ton of stories. Doreen is gonna be doing celebrity weddings. This is I feel like I gotta come over for supper tonight.
Lori Loughlin has asked Doreen to double for her in prison.
Crazy. You got anything you want to say to wrap it up, Doreen?
No, as always, John, thank you. It's been a pleasure and great to see you.
We always have a good time, a lot of laughs.
We do.
Yeah,
We don't care if anybody watching does, but we have a good time, John.
As long as we had a good time, hopefully people watching will have a good time too. Billy, you got anything you want to say to wrap it up?
No, man, thank you very much. This is really nice having me on.
Yeah, you guys are awesome guests. Frank was awesome. I always love Frank. My right-hand man. I want to turn him into a hit man. I want him to go in, he shoots the guy, and then he plasters him and leaves.
He's it.
All right, hey, guys, stay healthy. We'll have you on again sometime. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Thanks for everything, man.
Okay, guys.
Take care. See you again.
Thanks, guys.